ass was heart-shaped. Charlie felt a catch of desire in his throat. Her hips twitched sideways with each of her steps, like two bobcats fighting in a gunny sack, someone had once said, one of the other perverts at St. John's, trying to be funny. But it wasn't like that at all. It was a soft move. It was the motion of the world, right there in the raspberry slacks, with the slender back tapering down to her waist, her heels clicking on the sidewalk, her shoulder-length hair swinging in a backbeat to the rhythm of her legs. Jesus God, he needed one. He'd been 8.5 years without real sex. Charlie Pope, 34, a maniac, smelling like old banana peels and spoiled coffee grounds, standing on the street in Owatonna, passing eyes like icy raindrops, looking at a girl with a heart-shaped ass in raspberry slacks, and telling himself, I gotta get me some of that. I just gotta. The mist came in waves, now almost a rain, now so light it was more like a fog. Across the Mississippi, the night lights of St. Paul shimmered with a brilliant, glassy intensity in the rain phases, and dimmed to ghosts in the fog. After 2 weeks of Missouri-like heat, the mist was welcome, pattering down on the broad-leafed oaks and maples, gurgling down the gutters, washing out the narrow red brick road, stirring up odors of cut grass, damp concrete, and sidewalk worms. A rich neighborhood, generous lawns, older houses well-kept, a Mercedes here, a Land Rover there, window stickers from the universities of Minnesota and St. Thomas, and even Princeton. And now the smell of car exhaust and the murmur of portable generators. 6 cop cars, a couple of vans, and a truck jammed the street. Light bars turned on 4 of the vehicles, piercing red and blue LED lights cutting down toward the river and up toward the houses perched on the high bank above it. Half the cops from the cars were standing in the street, which had been blocked at both ends. The other half were down the riverbank, gathered in a spot of brilliant white light. People from the neighborhood clustered under an oak tree. They all wore raincoats, shrouds, and a Stephen King cloths, and a few had umbrellas over them. A child asked a question in an excited, high-pitched voice and was promptly hushed, waiting for the body to come up. Lucas didn't want to get trapped, so he left his Porsche at the top of the street and headed down the sidewalk toward the cop cars. A portable Honda generator had been set up on the street. Black power cables snaking down the riverbank were a line of caterpillar yellow work lights on tripods threw a couple of thousand watts of halogen light on the body. Nobody had covered anything yet. Lucas eased down the hillside, the grass slippery with churned-up mud. 20 feet out, he saw the body behind a circle of legs. A red and white thing spread on the grass, arms outstretched to the sides, legs spread wide, face up, naked as the day she was born. Lucas moved through the circle of cops, faces turning to glance at him. Somebody said, "Hey, Chief," and somebody else patted him on the back. Sloan stood on the slope below, leaning into the bank. Sloan was a narrow-faced, narrow-shouldered man wearing a long plastic raincoat, shoe rubbers, and a beaten-up snap-brimmed canvas hat that looked like it had just been taken out of the back closet. The hat kept the rain out of his eyes. He said to Lucas, "Look at this shit." Lucas looked at the body and said, "Jesus Christ." And somebody else said, "More'n you might think, brother. She was scourged." Scourged. The word hung there in the mist, in the lights. She'd been a young woman, a few pounds too heavy, dark hair. Her body, from her collarbones to her knees, was crisscrossed with cuts that had probably been made with some kind of flail, Lucas thought. A whip made out of wire, maybe. The cut lines were just lines. The rain had washed out any blood. There were dozens of the cuts, and the way they wrapped around her body, he expected her back to be in the same condition. "You got a name?" he asked. Angela Larson, Sloane said. College student at the U, from Chicago, worked in an art store. Missing since yesterday. Lucas walked around the body, down to stand next to Sloane. He looked at the cut in the throat. As with the wire cuts, it was bloodless, washed clean by the rain, resembling a piece of turkey meat. He didn't doubt that he could have buried a finger in it up to the knuckle. He could smell the rawness of the body, like standing next to the meat counter in a supermarket. The neck wound's what killed her, I think, Sloane said. No sign of a gunshot wound or a stab wound. He beat her, whipped her, until he was satisfied, and then cut her throat. Ligature marks on her wrists, said a man in plain clothes. We got a call last night when Larson didn't get back to her apartment, Sloane said. Her roommate called. We found her car in the parking lot behind Chaps. She worked at a place called the Markup down the block. I know it, Lucas said. Chaps was a younger club, mixed straights and gays, dancing. And used to park at Chaps because the store didn't have its own parking. The street is metered, and the Chaps lot has lights. She got off at 9 o'clock, stopped and said hello to a bartender, had a glass of white wine. Bartender said just enough to rinse her mouth. Probably about 20 after, she walked out to her car. She never got home. We found her car keys in the parking lot next to the car. No blood. No witnesses saw her. Looks pretty bad, Lucas said. I put my money on a semi-stranger. Whoever did this guy is pushed by brain chemistry. He's got something wrong with him. The way she's displayed. That's what I was thinking. The goddamn display. They just stood and watched for a minute, the cops moving around. I need to talk to somebody who's really on top of this shit, Sloane said, that I can get to whenever I need to. You want to talk to Elle, Lucas said. Call her. I would. Sloane called Elle, Sister Mary Joseph in her professional life. She was the head of the Department of Psychology at St. Anne's College, and literally Lucas's oldest friend. They'd walked to kindergarten together with their mothers. When Lucas became a cop and she became a teacher, they got back in touch, and Elle had worked on a half-dozen murders as an unofficial advisor and not quite a confessor. Then once, a crazy woman with a talent for misdirection caught Elle outside at night and had nearly beaten her to death. Since then, Lucas had shied from using her. If it happened again... Elle didn't share his apprehension. She liked the work, the tweezing apart of criminal psyches. So Sloane called Elle, and Elle called Lucas, and they all talked across town for 2 weeks. Theories and arguments and suggestions for new directions. Nothing. The murder of Angela Larson began to drift away from them. Out of the news, out of the action. A black kid got killed in a bar outside the Target Center, and some of the onlookers said it had been a racial fight. Television news pushed Larson back to an occasional mention, and Sloane stopped trudging around because he had no place further to trudge. On a dry day, with sunny skies, a week later, Lucas sat in a booth in a hot St. Paul bar, looking at a lonely piece of cheeseburger, 2 untouched buns, and a Diet Coke. Lucas was a tall man, restless, dark hair flecked with gray, with cool blue eyes. His face was touched with scars, including one that ran down through an eyebrow and up into his hairline, and another that looked like a large upside-down apostrophe where a little girl had shot him in the throat, and a doctor had slashed his throat open so he could breathe. He had a chipped tooth and what he secretly thought was a pleasant, even pleasing smile, but a couple of women had told him that his smile frightened them a little. He was wearing a gray summer-weight wool and silk suit from Prada, over black shoes and with a pale blue silk golf shirt, open at the neck, a rich jock look. He'd once been a college jock, a first-line defenseman with the University of Minnesota's hockey team. Lucas was tough enough, but he'd picked up 6 pounds over the winter. They'd lingered all through the spring and into the summer, and he'd finally put himself on the South Beach diet. An insane diet, he thought, but one that his wife had recommended just before she left town.